What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a couple of news stories to get through. The first is a leaked Time Spy benchmark for what we are assuming is the RTX 2080, and I'll explain why we think that is the case. And also, a content creator has had his entire sponsorship removed by NVIDIA after speaking out against pre-orders, and we're going to get into all of that. But first, today's video is brought to you by 0and9.com, where you could save money on PC games for all of your favorite platforms like Steam, Origin, Uplay, and more, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro or Microsoft Office Pro 2016. And if you use the code JOKERW at checkout, you can save 22% off your copy of Windows, which would bring the price down to $12.47, or you could use the code JOKER-S at checkout, where you can save 10% on the entire website for anything you pick up over there. Please check out the link down in the description below. So as I said, our first story is concerning a leak of an RTX 2080 benchmark on the Time Spy benchmark. The original source of this is someone who's been pretty reliable up until now, and the score is on the actual 3D Mark database for Time Spy, so it's probably legit, but as always with any sorts of rumors or leaks, you should take them with a grain of salt. But this guy has been pretty solid up until now, with a lot of leaks concerning the RTX 20 series of cards. Over on Twitter, his name is Tum_Apasak. I believe that's how you pronounce that. He's from Bangkok, Thailand, and he's been responsible for a lot of leaks leading up to the 20 series launch. And just 5 hours ago, he posted a link over to a Time Spy benchmark score, which we can see over there for its graphics score. It ended up scoring 10,030 points with an overall score of 8,547, but for strictly graphics comparison, we really want to look at the graphics score here. So it got 10,030 paired up with an i7 7740X and also 16 gigabytes of system memory. Now, why do we think this is the RTX 2080? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, if we come down to the graphics card itself, we can see that it's listed as a generic VGA, so it's not an official part yet, and it shows it running 8 gigabytes of video memory. So it's definitely not the 2080 Ti, so that leaves it to be either the 2080 or the 2070, but since NVIDIA is not sampling the 2070s yet, and we're not expecting to see those until October, it's very likely that this would be the 2080 and not the 2070, but you never really know with this. But like I said, I have my reasons to believe this would be the 2080 instead. So how does this stack up against some of the previous generation of NVIDIA cards? Well, Guru 3D put together a graph over here where we can see compared against the likes of Titan XP, Titan X Pascal, the big P, and the GTX 1080 Ti, and it actually shows it trailing slightly behind the Titan X little p. Now, this is of course not running on final drivers or anything like that, and it also very likely was not using tensor cores or anything along those lines, so that could greatly affect the score here in 3D Mark Time Spy. But as of right now, at least just looking at pure shader performance, it is slightly trailing behind the Titan X little p. And to me, this score is just really not that impressive, as it's only just slightly edging out a stock GTX 1080 Ti, which could have easily been overclocked and probably beat this, because if we go back and we look back on the 3D Mark database, it actually shows that the core clock on this card is running over 2,000 megahertz, which you can definitely do on a 1080 Ti overclocked. Mine usually sits between 2,000 and 2,050 megahertz, so you could definitely get it overclocked to the same clock speed and very likely see it sail past what the RTX 2080 is doing here. And the reason that doesn't really impress me very much is because if we look back at the last series, the GTX 1070 was competing with the 980 Ti. So that was a 70 series card competing with, and not only just competing, but also beating a GTX 980 Ti. Now skip forward to this generation, and we're needing to look at the 1080 Ti versus the new 2080 rather than the 2070 to get even close to comparable performance. And like I said, I would hypothesize that the 1080 Ti would beat this card if it was overclocked. So that's not a huge performance gain in my personal opinion, especially when so many of the 1080 Ti's and 1080s are out there right now and can be found very easily for much cheaper than what they're going to be asking for on the 2080 and the 2080 Ti's. Looking over on Amazon, they've got the Gigabyte 1080 Ti going right now for $650. If you want a link, I'll have it down below to any of these listings I'm going over here. Over on Newegg, they've got the EVGA 1080 Ti for $650. And if you get that, EVGA also has a step-up program. So let's say the cards come out and you decide you wanted to trade it in, you can do that with EVGA, and then you just have to pay the price difference, which is not a bad deal, honestly. Or you're just, at the end of the day, you're getting yourself a 1080 Ti for $650, which is going to be cheaper than a 2080, and just based solely on that score, which once again, take it with a grain of salt, not final drivers or anything like that. I would assume that this card would beat the GTX 2080 just based on the score that we're seeing right here. We've also got an MSI 1080 Ti going for $630 with a $20 mail-in rebate, bringing it down to $610. So you can have yourself a 1080 Ti for as low as $610. Even GTX 1080s now are going for like $430 over on Newegg with one of the Gigabyte cards. A very good triple fan card, not going to have any issues cooling that thing. And that's going for what, like GTX 1070 prices should have been going 4 months ago, but yet they were selling for way over $500, $600 during the whole mining boom. As I said at the start of the video, we've got one more news story concerning a streamer, a content creator from India, who's actually had his NVIDIA sponsorship revoked and his entire gaming PC taken away by NVIDIA because he spoke out during the RTX reveal against pre-ordering. That's it. During the RTX reveal, him and another podcaster were talking about, the whole RTX reveal and, talking to their viewers and saying, don't pre-order new hardware until you see the final performance numbers, which is totally understandable if you want to take that stance against pre-ordering hardware.
Why? Without any benchmarks, any reviews, why would you, like, as a consumer, just don't pre-order new hardware?
But what has happened here is NVIDIA has taken the stance that they're going to completely remove his sponsorship, make him send back the sponsored PC which they had supplied to him for streaming purposes, and take all of that away just because he dared to have an opinion on pre-ordering hardware without actually seeing concrete performance numbers, which is just really messed up. But at the end of the day, it is, NVIDIA's, PC that they supplied to him. It's their sponsorship, it's their brand name and everything. So really, they can do whatever that they want. And they say it was against their improper conduct for him to talk out against hardware pre-ordering as a sponsored content creator. But I can't help but feel that this is messed up, and I do want to hear your opinion on it down in the comments below. But as I said, it's NVIDIA sponsorship. They're more or less paying this guy by providing him with hardware to be able to, do his streams and everything like that. It's more or less a form of payment just with hardware. And I don't know personally if there's been any actual funds have exchanged hands between him and NVIDIA, but it's certainly possible. But him, talking out against pre-ordering hardware in general, I don't really feel like should impact NVIDIA in a way like that. And I don't feel like they should take away his sponsorship personally. And I think it's really messed up that they decided to do this, to this poor guy just because he had an opinion on pre-ordering. I mean, Jay's 2 Cents just did a whole video talking about the RTX cards and pricing and pre-ordering and speaking out against pre-ordering. He did quite a few minutes just discussing how firmly he is against pre-ordering new hardware, even though he would get new hardware even if it wasn't supplied to him, day one. He speaks out against it because it is not a good idea for the general public to pre-order hardware if they don't know how it's going to perform. You're just going to lose in most cases at the end of the day. I mean, just look at games and pre-ordering and how many games come out and do not deliver on the promises that they made prior to their launch. And with hardware, the same exact thing can be said. So don't pre-order hardware unless you just absolutely have money to burn and you don't care. But for the general public, probably not a good idea to go ahead and pre-order hardware. And I feel bad for the guy that he had to go ahead and lose his entire streaming rig just because he dare have an opinion that disagrees with something coming down from the Green Empire. So I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, guys. Please let me know your thoughts, as always, down in the comments below. I look forward to that, as always. Hit up the links over to Newegg and Amazon if you want to pick up any of the cards that I showed you for the 1080 Ti's that are selling at pretty darn good prices right now prior to the RTX launch. And I will see you all tomorrow for another video. Terra.